I think the fact that the Liberals have given this critically important portfolio to Mr Davis and he treats it with such little regard. What is the Liberal Party's plan to power this state? There is opposition, there is negativity, there is fear-mongering, and that is it. There is nothing viable put on the table to the alternative government in this state. For 100 years, we've had our state powered by the Latrobe Valley, and we've had 6,000 kilometres of transmission lines across this state during that time. I grew up on farms near transmission lines, and where were the Liberals in all those decades? Where were the Liberals screaming against transmission lines during that period? Whilst it is absolutely important that farmers are consulted on how this transmission is rolled out, on where it is rolled out, where compensation is applied. That's why we have development funds to ensure that communities are all benefiting. When there are new renewable projects, there are jobs in local communities that are seeing those workers having families, sending kids to the local schools, seeing money in communities. Footy clubs get money, seeing various sports groups, various community groups. That's why these development funds are important, because it identifies what is important to the community and where should it be spent. We see great examples of this in towns like Merbau North, where funds are held, are managed and distributed by community for community. And we see that, we've seen what's happened in Merbau North earlier this year. We've seen the storms across the place. We've seen how they affect particularly regional Victorians. We've seen how they affect farmers, yet we haven't heard one word of that today. Just last week, Acting President, I was at the New Energy Conference in Gippsland. Hundreds of people assembled talking about the delivery of new energy. And this is, I think, the third conference I've attended. This is work that has been happening over years, setting targets, providing investors with certainty, seeing renewables go up. That's why we have 40% renewable energy generation in this state right now. That's why in 11 years, 95% of this state's energy will come from renewables, because we've set a plan, we've given a course for industry to follow. But you're not interested in giving industry any certainty. All you have given industry in recent decades is uncertainty. And you're at it again. You've flipped on your head the fact that we could stand here and talk for 20 minutes on nuclear about how absurd it is. I don't know what Menzies would think if he looked at all you right now. You are ideologically absurd. There is no connection with economics. There is no connection with outcomes. It is just, how do we wreck, how do we destroy, how do we whip fear in communities? And what I don't understand is why you are so hell-bent. There is language in here, I need to find it in my notes, but basically wanting to put further barriers in between farmers getting income. I thought you were the party of trusting business people, that farmers are, to get on and get income to their farm. Because when droughts hit, when severe weather events hit, you know what's pretty handy to a family farm? Having diversified income. But you're so ideologically opposed to it. I was out at a farm 2 days ago, turning a first sod on a project for 5 megawatts of solar alongside Agri. This is absolutely the way of the future, where farmers are diversifying income. We get energy security. I know you lot would rather see oil get shipped from the other side of the world, from some dictatorship, bring it past nations that are potentially geopolitically insecure, to bring it here and burn it to add to our emissions. No talk about emissions over there. Bev, you could have been in the Greens, your contribution. The environmentalist has come out of nowhere. Bev, next you're going to be saying we should get cattle off the ground. Your contribution was environmental extremism. You know why? It's all because of your ideological opposition to renewables, because you see it as a way, you see it as a political path. That's all you see it as a political path. And there was no mention about
Mrs.
the
Deeming,
economic
on a point of
opportunity.
order.
There has been no talk about the fact that power prices have come down in the recent default offer. There is no talk about the fact that renewables are the cheapest form of energy. We're not hearing about that, are we? Because there is no plan from those opposite. Oh, here we go. Mr. Davis is back. It is breathtaking that a party that presents itself as the opposition government in this state, much like their federal counterparts, have no plan for energy. They have no plan for the economic impacts it has on this state, for our homes, for our businesses, for government. There is no plan. There is just fear-mongering and rot. And Victorians see that. They see it's all part of this ideological vent that has driven over 20 years. And as I said before, no, Mrs. MacArthur, I have a deep care and concern for community, which is why I am in this place. Because I tell you what, it's our entire community that is going to suffer without action on climate change. Every time someone opens up that insurance bills went up 16% last year. Insurance bills went up 16%. Every time a farmer gets smashed by a severe weather event, and that's why I stood up here last week. I stood up here last week in a member's statement to call out you lot for crocodile tears post-events, but no plans and no actions to get in front of what's coming. That's what I did, and I haven't heard a word since, and I'm sure we won't hear a word going forward. All we're going to hear is maniac ideology that doesn't provide any plan for Victorians.